Coming up on First at 4, a Laurel County firefighter injured during the weekend has been readmitted to the hospital. We'll have an update on his condition. And Donald Trump's fate in the hush money trial is now in the jury's hands. What could the potential outcomes mean for the former president?
And it feels like March on this May afternoon. The details on how long this cool down will last coming up as Mountain News First at 4 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, a Southern Kentucky firefighter hurt in a weekend fire is still recovering. Brandon Buckner was hurt battling the fire at a London eye surgeon's office. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on why a recovery suddenly resulted in an air flight to a Lexington hospital.
There is still not a very good indication of what exactly happened to Brandon Buckner, who goes by Bucky, but he was one of several firefighters injured during the initial attack in that fire on Sunday. A number of firefighters had made the first entry into the fire and were going up some stairs of the eye surgeon business when there was a backdraft action that caused them to fall down the stairs, a tumble of more than 20 feet. Some of them were treated on scene and others were sent to the hospital. Brandon Buckner was sent home Tuesday, but suddenly began having some pain again, and doctors in London believed that he needed urgent treatment, so they sent him to UK in Lexington. Captain Brandon Wager says Buckner is the kind of firefighter that goes above and beyond. He says the community has shown he and his family tremendous support.
We're just uplifting and trying to take care of him and his spouse as well and his family, and as we're all about fellowship here. The
other firefighters were treated and released. They are waiting to be cleared by their doctor to be able to return to work. They are at home recovering. In Lexington, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Brandon Buckner, who is originally from Hazard, has been a London firefighter since 2021. Top golfer Scotty Scheffler's case was back in a Louisville courtroom today. Charges of felony assault on a police officer, criminal mischief, and reckless driving were all dismissed. They stemmed from an incident in Louisville earlier this month. Officers said Scheffler disregarded signals from officers directing traffic while he was trying to enter the Valhalla Golf Club for the second round of the PGA Championship.
Mr. Scheffler's characterization that this was, quote, a big misunderstanding, close quote, is corroborated by the evidence. The evidence we reviewed supports the conclusion that Detective Gillis was concerned for public safety at the scene when he initiated contact with Mr. Scheffler. However, Mr. Scheffler's actions and the evidence surrounding their exchange during this misunderstanding do not satisfy the elements of any criminal offenses.
The judge accepted the motion to dismiss the charges. The judge told attorneys that the case will be eligible for expungement within 60 days.
We are tracking some mainly dry and cool weather on this Wednesday afternoon. Let's go to First Alert Pinpoint Doppler. Not much happening right now, but a few showers, maybe a few sprinkles close to the Mountain Parkway. Zooming into parts of Johnson County, also pushing into southern Lawrence County. Nothing too heavy, but a light shower just to the south of Louisa. And notice back to the north, close to the I-64 corridor, a first alert in Rowan County, also close to Lawrence and Elliott counties. A few light showers are possible over the next 30 to 45 minutes as that pushes off to the south and east. A live look though from Perry County, from Buffalo Mountain, tracking some more peaks of sunshine and some below average weather. Those highs should be in the upper 70s, but check this out. Most of us in the middle to lower 70s and some 60s as well, up to 69 for Jackson, 68 for Irvin, up to 71 for Pikeville, and 72 over in Laurel County for London at this hour. More mainly dry and cool weather is on the way to go into this evening. A small chance of a passing shower, maybe a light sprinkle, but it's not going to be a widespread issue. Lows back in the upper 40s to lower 50s to wake up on Thursday, and a copy and paste forecast on the way tomorrow. All those details coming up in just a little bit. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thank you. Jury deliberations are underway in former President Donald Trump's historic criminal trial in New York. CBS's Michael George reports from outside the courthouse where Trump could become the first former president ever convicted of a crime.
Former President Donald Trump struck a pessimistic tone after jury deliberations in his criminal case got underway.
Mother Teresa could not beat those charges, but we'll see. We'll see how we do.
The presumptive Republican presidential nominee is facing 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Prosecutors contend he tried to conceal a repayment to his former fixer Michael Cohen for $130,000 in hush money paid to adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election.
That is the question at the heart of this. Were the business records falsified in order to try and unlawfully influence the election?
Trump has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing.
These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged.
Judge Juan Merchan began the day by issuing instructions to the jurors, saying the burden of proof never shifts from the people to the defendant. If the people fail to satisfy their burden of proof, you must find the defendant not guilty. And if the people satisfy their burden of proof, you must find the defendant guilty. The former president's fate comes down to a jury of 7 men and 5 women. They have the testimony of 22 witnesses over several weeks to consider.
I think we're looking at hours versus days. The faster it is, the better it is for the prosecution.
This is one of 4 criminal cases Trump is facing, but most likely the only one that will wrap up before the presidential election in the fall. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
So jurors are now about 4.5 hours into deliberations. We have learned in the last half hour that the jury has sent a note to the judge with 4 requests, including to rehear some testimony, and of that it includes some related to a 2015 Trump Tower meeting where a plan to stop negative stories about Trump was discussed. Now, even if Trump is convicted, it does not necessarily mean he will have to serve prison time. The judge has other sentencing options, including probation. 2 former FBI officials have reached a tentative settlement with the Justice Department. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page say their privacy rights were violated when their text messages were released. Lisa Page says DOJ or FBI officials improperly provided her messages with Peter Strzok to reporters 5 years ago. Page's texts were critical of then-President Donald Trump, and she says he used those messages to help oppose the investigation into election interference. The FBI, along with other federal agencies, say nationwide crime is down. But crime is still one of the main issues on voters' minds when they express what they are most concerned about heading into the November election. CBS's Skylar Henry went beyond the numbers to learn whether the U.S. has a crime problem or one surrounding messaging.
From the White House,
violent crime is at a nearly 50-year low.
To major cities.
What we're seeing is that our crime rates, they are trending downwards.
Officials say crime, especially violent crime in the U.S., is taking a dip since last year. But voters aren't quite sold. 63% of registered voters say the issue is a major factor in who they'll vote for in November. John Gramlich at the Pew Research Center says the disconnect between the data and how it lands is complicated.
Perception is almost as important as the reality in a lot of ways. Even if crime stats show a decline, if people are concerned about crime, they might vote on that concern. And so it does have real political implications.
A 2024 Pew Research survey found Republicans and Republican-leaning independents are much more likely than Democrats to say reducing crime should be a top priority for the president and Congress.
About an hour outside of Washington sits Purcellville, Virginia. It's not a big community, but it's touting a big recognition.
Home security review site Safewise says Purcellville is the safest community in the state.
We do our best to eliminate the opportunity for crime.
Interim Police Chief Dave Daly says that's not a fluke, as his department deploys a combination of community outreach and crime prevention messaging.
Because our numbers of actual reported incidents are low, we're able to engage in proactive policing. In fact, our officers last year engaged in about 15,000 proactive policing events.
It's the strategy American University professor Janice Iwama says is needed.
To push them to produce data and statistics that illustrates what is going on today and to engage in a conversation with community members.
And in turn, Iwama adds, it creates a better informed electorate in their communities and at the polls. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Purcellville, Virginia.
The Pew Research Center also says that high-profile crimes or a spike in trends sway voters' perceptions as well. Experts are also encouraging voters to call their respective law enforcement agencies and ask for real-time numbers to gauge where crime stands in their neighborhoods. Coming up on First at 4, executions around the world are increasing. Which country led the way with the largest number of deaths?
Plus, we are tracking some more mainly dry weather in the short term, but those rain chances increase by this weekend. Those details coming up.